Hello, I'm Cynthia Rickard. Welcome to the Scribbler Podcast. Today we're exploring the topic of hazing, which has been in the news and on the minds of parents, educators, and students in Youngstown and the Mahoning Valley in recent weeks, as our schools and courts cope with the aftermath of allegations of some devastating incidents of hazing at Ursuline High School, one of the Catholic Church's two high schools in Youngstown. Recently, we interviewed attorney Subodh Chandra of Cleveland, the lawyer for the family suing Ursuline for what they say happened to their kids. Today, I and my co-host Taci Turel are asking our guests who work with youth in the Mahoning Valley to help us understand the phenomenon of hazing, why it occurs, why it's tolerated or even encouraged, and what effect it has on everyone involved. Judge Theresa Dellick has been a judge in Mahoning County's juvenile court for 24 years, and consultant Darryl Alexander has been counseling minors since 1988. So welcome, Darryl and Theresa. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Before we start into the questions, I'd just like each of you to give a brief description of your background, your work, and your expertise in this area.
All right. Again, Darryl Alexander. The organization is called, the acronym is YUMADOP, Youngstown Urban Minority Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Outreach Program. And I've been the executive director for 37 years, and our programs are primarily school-based, and we are a behavioral health prevention agency. So we deal with drug and alcohol misuse prevention. We deal with violence prevention and bullying, conflict resolution, of course, which we're dealing with today.
Yeah.
And we also work with adults because there is addiction with adults, but our core services are for youth, whether they are in elementary school, middle school, or high school.
Okay, Theresa?
A juvenile judge since 2001. We have some of these cases sometimes. This case is not in our court. We won't talk about it specifically in case it does end up in the court, but we will talk about the similar boundaries regarding it.
I'm just going to start by asking how each of you define hazing and what it includes. Because I've read a lot, it can include harassment, stalking, isolation, all kinds of things, depending on what organization or institution it happens at. So, yeah, do you want to?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I think it's any situation where you are trying to use some level of power negatively over another individual and trying to force them to do some things that you want them to do or they do not want to do. And whether it's physical, whether it's psychological, for me, that's hazing.
Okay. Theresa?
There are hazing laws in Ohio, and those are the ones that we would follow. And very similar to what Darryl has explained, what hazing is, it's coercion of some sort to secure a certain action or compliance.
So it can involve, it's not just a physical thing, then it can involve psychological hazing, mental hazing. Is that part of it?
Yeah, because if I do some things, whether, verbal or nonverbal, to threaten you, or to try to force you to do some things, that to me is hazing.
Well, how does it differ from that happening, like in domestic violence cases, in abuse cases in the home? How would hazing be different from that?
I mean, for me, if I take it into the adult realm, I don't personally see a lot of difference. Married or spousal situations. If I try to intimidate, if I try to force, for me, it's the same thing. It just plays itself out somewhat differently between youth and adults.
Okay. So, Theresa, do you want to weigh in on how you define hazing?
Well, hazing for us in the law is 2903.31 by the Ohio Revised Code, and it states that any act of intimidation or coercion to force a certain act, such as even drinking alcohol or an activity for membership in an organization or affiliation or reinstatement, is considered hazing, and it's a felony in the third degree.
For both minors and adults, or are there different statutes?
No, minors are held to the same adult statutes. There aren't different statutes for minors and adults. Minors are charged under adult statutes.
Okay.
As a professor at YSU, and I was a faculty advisor to a student organization, we actually had to take a hazing training online. I was required to take the training as a faculty advisor to the group, and then everybody in the student organization were required to take it. So at university, it's more known as an initiation type incident. But from a legal standpoint, what kinds of charges would people face in a case where hazing includes physical and even sexual assault?
Well, then they could charge under those statutes too, under the sexual activity statutes, under assault, battery.
So it would be more than just the...
Correct.
The
It wouldn't
hazing.
just be the hazing.
Okay.
It would be under more criminal statutes. Because if there is a sexual act or a performing of one, then you'd go under that line of laws. If it was a battery, serious harm, you could also go under felonious assault. Because hazing is a felony in the third degree.
Yeah.
Felonious assault would be a felony in the second degree.
I was going to
which would
say
be
those
higher.
must be more serious
Yes.
charges.
And you did mention that minors would be treated the same way as
Correct.
adults.
Correct.
So how seriously does the law treat these cases when all the offenders are minors? I mean, it doesn't have any difference.
No, it depends upon the act.
Oh,
Okay.
And YSU had you take that hazing because 2903.31 applies to administrators, teachers, faculty, and alumnus.
oh, really?
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
Anyone part of the education system.
Do you consider hazing a form of initiation or bullying? I was reading some research on it, and it started like way back, in 1800s or earlier, and it was more a form of building team spirit. But it seems like once it hit our country and our universities or whatever, cruelty started to creep in, and it seems like every time you hear about one of these cases, it gets more and more cruel. So is it supposed to be a form of initiation, or is it just simply bullying?
I think it really started as a form of initiation. Just, with me, it kind of in my personal opinion, really just to acknowledge, if it's a sports team, you're the new person on the block. And so there's some things that you're going to do to kind of prove to us that you're a part of this. But somewhere along the line, it really got skewed. And so it really got into some very, very dysfunctional types of behavior.
Yeah. I remember when my brother started college at YSU, and he was, I don't know if he was trying to get into a frat or not, but what I remember is the horrific stories that he told about what the younger ones or the new ones had to do. And it really got into the area of sex among, all men. And I was just horrified when I heard it. I was much younger, of course, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know this stuff happened.
I had heard about the fraternity initiations too from my brother-in-law. He was older. I was still in high school, and he was in college. But before he married, though, of course, afterwards, he was telling me, and I think I was in high school, and he's telling me, and they were just silly things. Just silly, goofy things that they made you do.
Yeah.
And you're right. Now I can remember there was one case at Ohio State University where they forcibly, I think it was Ohio State, where they forcibly forced the person to keep drinking alcohol, and then died of
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alcohol
Yeah.
overdose. I guess you would call it. You have a more significant name for it than I know.
Right.
But but that's what, and they kept forcing it down, and he couldn't take it, and then he died.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, but basically, they were just silly little things. And now, it's gotten different, very different, and more dangerous.
Can you speak to the psychology of what moves people to do this, and what prompts somebody to even engage in these kinds of activities?
Well, I think for me, I'll say that the precursor, everybody wants to be a part of something. gangs want to be a part
Want to
of
belong.
something. Everybody wants to belong. And so, I think that, unfortunately, when you get those who, whether it's due to, I'll say poverty and not having some things that maybe you have,
Peer pressure.
peer pressure, just a whole host of things. That dysfunction among a group of people occurs, and then the outcome is bullying. Football, baseball, basketball, sports, hazing, bullying, whatever term you really want to use.
I think there's a lot to do with being in a group as well, because the psychology of people in a group is a little bit different than individuals too. So when you're part of a community, a sports club, or some kind of fraternity, for example, I feel like that affects them a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think it's something with mob mentality.
Yes.
Is that what you were thinking? Cynthia?
Yes, because I took a course in college about group psychology, and we did an experiment in the class. And they put us all in a circle. I knew these people because I'd been in class with them. I was shocked at what they were doing, and it wasn't something that they would do face to face, one-on-one. And January 6th kind of speaks to that, because I know I've heard from a lot of people. I don't think a lot of those people would have engaged in that had they not been in that massive mob of people that started it. But I don't really understand what happens. It's sort of, we were talking earlier about it's what happens to people online when they're anonymous and they attack people. They would never say it to your face. So I don't know if it's that, if it's like an anonymity.
I think it's anonymity. It's almost like the drivers on the road. Some of the things that drivers do. You would never do that if you knew who the other car was.
Yeah.
Or if you saw there was this one parody I saw. It was people walking on sidewalks acting like they were in cars. And they would walk right by somebody and push them over or say, get out of my way, or they'd be getting past and it'd speed up. And it was just, it showed you what happens with anonymity.
Yeah.
The other thing I think what happens is there was this other study that was done. This one professor walks into a classroom. It's the first day. And he says, young lady in the blue with the scarf. She said, yes. He said, get out of my classroom. And she said, why? She said, I don't like scarves, and you're in a scarf, and you're in blue, and get out. So it was a constitutional law class, I believe. And no one did anything in the classroom. So she marches up, leaves, and the teacher said, so why didn't any of you stand up for her? And it was that mentality. I don't want to get kicked out. Number one, self-preservation. Then number two, no one else is saying anything, why should I?
Yeah.
And the professor said, listen, this is what the Constitution's about. We need to enforce our rights and enforce them for other people. And so it was just a good class lesson.
Yeah.
And so nothing says I won't do it to you next if you don't stand up.
Right.
So I think that's what happens with the mob, with the group. And you don't want to be excluded, like you said, Darryl.
Right.
That's interesting, because I think when you're talking about that, what I think about is players in a locker room, and doing that. And if any of the other players would stand up, because then they would be ostracized, I suppose. And sports teams seem to be among the worst.
And see, for me, and that's kind of the, like, how do we get from there to here? So I went to college. I was a baseball player, had offers. But as a team, back then, I'm old.
Yeah.
But we just did not do that.
Really?
We had little stuff. Oh, you made an error, so you're going to go ahead and clean something or whatever. But there really was no hazing, because we, as a group. That was our norm, unofficial. Who knows where it came from, whether it was parental, whether it was the coaches, who knows? But that was the least of what was on our mind was hazing.
Yeah.
And we went on trips.
Right. And I think
Did
the other
you?
thing, they probably built team by doing certain traditions. And I see a lot of teams do that. They have a tradition. We all put our hands in before a game, or we all clap regardless of someone, if they made a bad play or a good play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see that happening. And so it's almost, that's how you build camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I think that's the purpose of hazing, is to build some camaraderie.
Yeah.
But it's rather a negative way to do it.
Yeah. Well, and as you said, when it started, it was sort of innocuous things, but it has, I don't understand why it kind of morphs into these horrific acts.
Well, I know some gang initiations are horrific.
Yeah.
You've seen them for sure with your line of work. And they are horrific. And it's almost as if it's almost a dare. You want to join us? We're going to see how tough you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if this happens in this community, but I've seen it in some of the crime shows on TV where they require
that's
gang
really true
members.
stuff there too. So
I know, but they require the gang members to kill somebody to get in.
well, they talked about that. They often say that the teardrop, and I don't know if it's true or not. If you see a teardrop, that means they had to kill someone for a gang initiation or something. I don't know. Have you heard that too?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
It
how
could be a
often do
legend.
the two of you deal with hazing in your own practices? Do you see it a lot in your court?
No. What we'll see is we'll see different things like bullying.
Uh-huh.
All right, and cyberbullying. Although there's no specific law for bullying, it's basically a school policy. The Board of Education has to adopt a bullying law, a bullying policy for the school, and then enforce it and do training.
So there's no state law?
No state law on bullying, but there is a state law on cyberbullying. And don't forget, when you have bullying, if there's going to be any effects, you can also go under other statutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And you can also ask for a civil protection order.
Right.
Although those are civil,
Yeah.
but they're not criminal.
How often do you see it, Darryl?
More bullying. And so for the groups that we do in the schools, for us, usually that very, very first session, we're very upfront in terms of, these are the policies that we're going to follow. And if such and such happens, this is going to be the consequence in terms of who we report to. So we just put it up front very, very clearly. And that helps. Of course, some things are still always going to happen.
Yeah.
But that kind of minimizes some things.
Yeah. At least you're saying it clearly at the start.
And I believe social media has really aggravated it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things on social media that almost glorify it as being funny.
Right.
Well, and I mean, even in our political discourse now at the highest levels, it seems to be condoned and encouraged.
Well, that's been going on for years, too.
Yeah.
I've said when we start seeing our national leaders, and for years, losing their decorum,
Yes.
we've really started to unravel at the seams.
Yeah.
And this is nothing new. This has been going on because we've seen it. Instead of, they used to say the lady from the South, the representative from the North, we recognize you. And
Yeah.
you call it the gentleman. I'm sorry, the gentleman from the North, the woman from the North or whatever. And now they don't even recognize, or they're rude. And it's just been, and I don't want to say it's just this term. This has been a slow erosion. If you look back, you'll see it's been happening for years.
Yeah.
And it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable. I mean, I don't know how we, right this ship to get it back on the right course, where we say, we can't talk that way. We really need to be professional and have some decorum.
Well, and that comes back to the whole example you were using, that if people don't speak up, and object to what's going on, then it's never going to change.
No, and I think what happens, the name calling starts, and everywhere there's one-upmanship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know where we go, but we just need more people standing up and saying, I refuse to participate in that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you see an increase in the issues with hazing, bullying, or this kind of attitude, rudeness, getting too far in your profession based on the cases you have?
We see an increase in civil protection orders, children against children, youth against youth, teens against teens.
Really?
Yes, we see an awful lot of it.
How does that work? So the parents don't actually have to...
The parents come in on it too, and
they
sometimes the parents are part of it.
So a minor can actually ask for a civil protection order?
Yes.
I didn't know
An adult can ask for a civil protection order against a minor.
Oh.
So
Or against a minor or for a
against
minor?
Against a
Okay.
minor and for a minor.
And for a minor. So the parents don't actually have to do the asking. Oh,
No, so what happens here, that often the cases are, starts maybe at a football game, you know, or a little concert, and someone said something, and they said something back, and then they threatened, and it just escalates, throw something at someone's house, drive by honking the horn. I mean, we just see all kinds of examples. So, and it just becomes harassing.
that I was just going to say, when we were younger, you know, like especially at Halloween, like toilet papering people's homes or, you know, throwing eggs at them and that kind of stuff used to be sort of childish pranks. But are they still considered that, or?
Depends to the degree. No, I think that the toilet papering depends on how it's done. I think for football players, basketball players, before a game, a big game, you know, if you got toilet papered, I think it's like, oh, I'm somebody on the team. You know, I think they know my name. And you kind of feel pretty good, like I got toilet paper.
Yeah.
I've seen kids do that.
We had a tradition of putting toilet paper on a tree at Auburn University when I was a graduate
Right.
student.
Yeah, and it
Every
was
time
just-
you won a game.
Right, and that was it. So it was a simple
Yeah.
something. It makes a complete mess, and the parents get upset because I was
Yeah.
like, geez, how do I-
Yeah.
throwing eggs leaves a mess. I mean,
Yeah.
I would toilet paper
Right,
besides forever throwing eggs.
Yeah.
Although I'm not condoning either one.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But when it gets to be something a lot, and throwing eggs at a house, we have seen civil protection orders filed for throwing eggs at a house.
Really?
Breaking a window, throwing stuff, leaving dog or cat feces on someone's porch, you know, things
That
like
sounds
that.
like mob behavior.
But yeah, we've seen different things like that. So you just have to decide, does it rise to the level? Just doing that isn't enough. The other person has to feel somewhat threatened, harmed, and at risk of substantial harm. So
This is a little bit off the subject, but since you're talking about civil protection orders, do they really work? Because, you know, when I was reporting and editing, there were so many cases of, you know, mostly domestic abuse cases where one spouse would take it out against another and then it would be violated. And sometimes on a few occasions, that spouse ended up dead. It seems like, you know, it's not a lot of help.
yeah, it's a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And it gives you the right to call the police. I mean, you can call the police anytime, but if the police show up, you can show I have a civil protection order, and that person usually gets warned once, don't come back. Or they can say, you know, we're going to take you down to the station, depending upon the severity of the situation, the officer, they may take them down to the station. Sometimes they may get charged. Sometimes they might just be warned. So it depends. But you're right. I know specifically of one situation where a woman had a CPO, and the ex-boyfriend came and killed her and another. So it happened in town not too long ago.
Yeah.
So it does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
But when police arrive, they have explicit instructions what to do.
They can actually do
They
something.
can do something instead of just trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And then citing or giving a warning.
Okay.
When minors are involved in these type of acts, how do you balance punishment and rehabilitation?
Well, number one, you look at the victim. What are the injuries? You always have to look at the injuries. The injuries are going to dictate a lot. The other thing you look at is if the student is rehabilitatable. And often I say habilitable,
Right,
correct?
yes.
Because sometimes they're not even habilitable, correct?
Correct.
And I think sometimes that rehabilitation is overused and wrongly used. Would you agree?
I would completely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So meaning they haven't had the training to begin with. So they have to be habilitated. Their home life didn't provide that for them.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But is there any redemption for these?
Oh, yeah, there's redemption, yes. Number one, civil protection orders last until till age 19 usually. And then the other thing is there is redemption. I mean, you balance, everything's a balancing test. I mean, there's nothing that we look into a book and go, okay, well, this happened, and we have this, like baking a cake, you know, that makes eggs with flour. But it's more, what are the facts? How bad are the severity of the injuries? What was the actual act? Is a student able to be rehabilitated or habilitated? And can it be done before the student ages out? That's a key question too. So if we have a student who is charged at age 17, our local appellate court says, you really have to see if you can change some of that behavior by the time that student turns 18.
Yeah.
And if it's not possible, then that affects the whole decision too.
Right. I mean, we've had, again, without getting into any names, we've had, I remember in particular one young person that was in one of our groups a pretty good while ago. And at that point in time, and it was a summer camp and then school-based. And so they were in one of our prevention groups. And I remember one of my staff coming to me and just saying, this one right here is not redeemable just because of their behavior. And I'm talking like 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, my.
And, unfortunately, that was the situation.
Yeah.
And they committed some real heavy-duty stuff. And
So what happens in a case like that with a kid that young? I mean, it seems like not redeemable at 6 or 7 is like, that's kind
That
of
is scary.
chilling. Yeah.
right. For that situation, as a staff, what we didn't know was the home life. But pretty much at that age, my guess would be there's something going on.
Yeah. Do you
some
go
level
into
of
the
abuse.
home in a case like that when you suspect that that's where it's coming from?
So we don't. So we just automatically get on the horn, call the sheriff's office, call CSB and say, this is our suspicion.
Right.
So we want you guys to go and investigate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand that. When you see that, you knew something horrific had been going on and continuing to go on, most likely in the home. And that's a sad situation.
And
that's not common, though.
It's not common.
No, it's very rare, so don't get alarmed about it.
Yeah.
But that does happen.
Yeah. It is. It's sad, though,
It
that
is.
you would have a kid like that. Do you, in the court, if something like that happens, are you able to remove the child from the home? Do you do home inspections or?
Well, it depends upon the severity. For example, if you contact Children's Services, they may take over the case. So, and then they may file in the court. We may then have an open case. But they would do all the monitoring.
Okay.
And Darryl is a mandatory reporter.
You're right.
As a matter of fact, there's currently a legislation in our state making every elected office holder a mandatory reporter.
Oh,
too,
really?
Not just those of us in juvenile field. But so what we could do in our court, say we did have a case, say there was an open case where a student was charged, we can go into the home. If it's not, we'll go in.
Yeah.
If it's not a Children's Services case, because we have what we call family engagement coordinators, guardians, and we can send people into the home to find out for us what's really going on in the report in open court. Of course, they can't talk to me separately or alone. It has to be in open court. But then we would find out what's going on, and then we have the authority in our position to go in and correct things with the parents or whomever the caregivers are. So that's the great power we have in juvenile court.
Yeah.
So in adult court, they only have access to the person in front of them. But for us, we can do the whole family. And that's the beauty of juvenile court. And that was in the legislature along when we were first created in whatever year it was. And so we have wide authority, broad. And it helps us because just doing something for that youth isn't going to change the home.
Right.
And as Darryl said, it's the home that's causing the problem or the factors in it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So if something like that happens with a minor like 6, 7, 8 years old, and let's say it's a redeemable case, who is really responsible? I mean, is it the parents or the family, the institution, if it's happening in an institution?
Number one, every youth is considered redeemable.
Okay.
We really do. We consider every youth redeemable. I think when your staff member said it was a precursor,
Right.
we have to do something about this student. It was an indicator. I mean, I don't think his staff made a judgment call and said, boom, this kid's out. But
You continue to work.
we continue to work with
them.
And that's what we do. And there's no timeline.
Okay.
There's really no timeline. But you do what you can, and you look for progress at certain stages. So, yes, they can go into the institution. And sometimes it is the institution. because we're finding out so much more about behavior. In the last few years, there's just been so much research. Number one, we've really seen the indicator and the results of what trauma does. And a lot of this is caused by trauma.
Yeah.
And you can reverse trauma behavior.
You can.
You can't. You still carry the trauma, but you teach new behaviors instead of that behavior. So, but then, we go in and we hold everyone accountable. And the prosecutor can then go in and charge. So if there is some sort of abuse going on, the prosecutor can go in and charge either the institution, the staff, or the family members. Or a guardian, a foster care, or a grandparent, whatever it is, whoever it is that's doing that. And we have found that to be true. I mean, if we start talking about cases we've seen, it will be anyone imaginable.
Really?
About a boyfriend or girlfriend that comes in.
Yeah.
And from a psychological standpoint, what do you think makes people stay silent in an incident like that? You know, they know that it's happening, but nobody speaks out.
Well, number one, you all hear snitches get stitches.
Right.
Right?
So that,
and that's real.
Yes.
That's real.
Yes.
That's real. And our youth,
Yeah.
I had one youth told me, sometimes they get more than stitches.
Really?
Death.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so that's a real
That's
silencing factor. It is real.
You know, in embarrassment. You know, this is my child, and whether they're the perpetrator or whether they're the victim, you know, I'm feeling shame behind this. So the best way to deal with this is to remain silent.
Another way is you're used to it. That's what happens.
Yeah.
That happened to me. It happens. That's how we are. And I turned out. How many times do we hear that?
Right.
Yeah.
I turned out. And that's the other. That's just their custom, habit, what they're used to.
Yeah, sometimes people see it as part of being, part of growing up and normalize it. And I mean, especially sometimes in faith-based institutions, there's more like temptation to hide it.
We are embarrassed too. I think there's a lot of embarrassment and shame, like
Right.
Darryl said. And who will believe me? I remember I had this one teacher. We got to know each other, and she was tutoring. And she said, Theresa, next week we won't have a tutoring class. I said, okay, we're rescheduling. She says, no, I'm leaving town. My husband, who was a preacher, gets drunk and beats me. But no one in the congregation would believe it because he has such a great presence. So I'm leaving through the night and going to my family. And she picked up and left because she was afraid. So that's the other thing that happens. No one believes you because the other person is gregarious and outgoing and has a great reputation.
Well, and that happens, I guess, with minors too. I keep thinking of that one case, not in this area, but where those parents who were both, I think they were both college graduates, and they had all those kids chained to their beds and refrigerator locked, and the one girl finally was able to escape. And they had all these pictures of taking them out to Las Vegas and celebrating, and the public picture was great. And those poor kids had been suffering for years.
Yeah, and you just wonder if it'll ever be right, too.
I know.
Because that's just so engraved.
Yeah, that's
is.
what I was going to ask that question. What are the long-term effects of hazing, bullying? It seems to be inclusive of all of these things.
Right. So, as kind of they say in the church, hurt people. And so domestic violence, being one. Just with your, as a parent, just very, very harsh parental practices. You're putting in that young person. So what we call it is adverse childhood experiences, which inevitably lead to whether it's substance misuse, whether it's depression, anxiety, delinquency as a juvenile. They all lead to these things. For lack of a better way of saying it, you're implanting a legacy within a child that unfortunately is going to play itself out in bullying and in hazing or different behaviors. And so as professionals and as the court, we deal with them in that journey at some point in time. And so our role, our mission really is to affect as much change and turn this around as best as we can.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if can they escape that then, and how?
They can. Darryl spoke about ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's a 10-point checklist that you can go through, and it was created by Kaiser Permanente in 1999. 1988?
88.
88. I think it was 1988. And they were doing a study, and they found out that, I can go into the whole study, but we won't go into it, but they found out these 10 factors were the factors that really created this behavior that they saw in people. And so we call them adverse childhood experiences before the age of 18. Most people as an adult also can have those experiences because it can be divorce, death, mental health issue, drug addiction. And so maybe as an adult you've run into someone like that, but it's how much of an effect do you have it from the ages before you become an adult, because that's when you're most impressionable. And they call that the trauma that you have. And what we have found with trauma, what we know is when we see some of that behavior hurt people, that's an indicator to us. When I see someone bullying, I go, oh my gosh, that person has had adverse childhood experiences. So then you find out which one they were, and then you try to find out what can be done. But everybody is different. So you and I can go through the same experience, adverse experience, but come out differently.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say, because a lot of people do go through these traumas, and you hear people say that, well, this happened to me and I'm fine.
I question whether they are fine, because if you really are fine, you would have empathy. Am I correct?
Correct.
So when they say, I went through that and I'm fine, if you were fine, you would understand and have empathy for that person. And if you don't, then really you're not fine, okay?
That's a good
So
point.
the thing is, what happens, what balances your adverse childhood experiences, your positive supports.
Oh,
So someone can have an adverse childhood experience, but they have a connection with a good teacher,
Right.
connection with a good school counselor or a coach,
Yeah.
or a good parent or a neighbor, and they build your strengths, your resilience. And so you can have the same thing, but this person has built all these positives into you that you're able to deal with that negative. And that's why some people don't crush. And some people do crush because they have no positive supports.
yeah.
And so I always try to tell everybody, we're all an eggshell. And I always use this as an example. When you go to the grocery store and you go to buy eggs, what's the first thing you do before you buy them?
You look to see if they're cracked.
You look to see if they're cracked. And you have to look at every one, correct?
Yep.
And sometimes it's only one that's cracked.
Yes.
How can that be when that carton is designed to keep the eggs from being cracked and the other ones didn't get cracked, but that one did?
Yeah.
It's the eggshell. It's a support around that eggshell.
Oh.
So that's what it is. So that's why everybody's different, and all of us may crack at different things,
Yeah.
depending upon our supports. And sometimes the support is a group of friends, a strong influence. So that will do it. Anything you want to add?
Right. I mean, just to kind of get maybe this is a little off track personal. So my uncle, who I was very, very close to, so he graduated from the Rand High School. Probably, if I looked at it closely, arguably maybe the only person from this area, because we're a football area, we're a baseball area,
Yeah.
who was an NBA basketball player.
Oh.
Played with the Philadelphia Warriors, and then they changed to Philadelphia 76.
Yeah.
So moved to Chicago, after finished basketball, became an executive director of a Y, then became regional director of United Ways there.
Oh.
And so got a phone call. Actually, my first year in the field, mother had passed, on my mother's side, that he had committed suicide, and so you figure, okay, financially well off, former NBA player,
Yeah.
Educated.
transferred into human services, did real well there. Why? What happened? But it gets into trauma as an adult.
That's what happens.
A lot of family conflict.
Yeah.
So it plays itself out as an adult as well as a child.
Yeah.
What I do know is that my grandfather died of cirrhosis of the liver.
Oh.
You know, what I can say is that, because all of this is on the maternal side of my family, that my one aunt died of an alcohol-induced heart attack. So somewhere in that side of our lineage, there was trauma.
Yeah.
My mother did that. That was not her story. So she was the one in the carton who did not get cracked.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, there had to be effects on her.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she had other resilience factors that were able to hold her up.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting, and it's a real science because it's not something that you know. I'm a certified SAMHSA instructor on trauma informed, and there's a 4-hour class we teach. So it's not something that I can just.
What
do
is
it
that,
quick.
SAMHSA?
Substance abuse.
Mental-
Yeah, go ahead.
Mental Health Services,
Okay.
Health Administration.
For the federal government. So, substance abuse, mental health,
health.
addiction services, right?
Yes.
Yeah. but it's a federal government organization, and they do a lot with mental health and addiction services. And they adopt trauma informed, and they try to teach it. And in fact, our court is all trauma informed. They all have had that training, and we regularly go over it. And that's the first thing we look for, because if you're going to try to change behavior, you have to see what caused that behavior
Yeah.
instead of just punishing. And that's why punishment alone doesn't change
Right.
behavior.
So-
They're used to punishment.
Yep.
So to prevent trauma, or at least the effects of trauma, if you witness a case like that, what should be the immediate steps for the witnesses or parents or anybody who see that? What should they do?
In what way? So
Like legally and maybe psychologically as well. What are the immediate next steps that people should take when they witness a situation like this?
So are you a family member and you know something's going on in the house that's causing a trauma?
I mean, a family member, or let's say this is happening at a school environment and students are impacted. There are people who notice things are happening, and you see that, somebody is getting bullied or being harassed. What should people be doing legally, or also
Well, legally in schools, by policy, they have to follow their anti-bullying statute. I call it statute, the policy. I keep forgiving.
But that's
forgive me.
per school district,
Per school
right?
comes up as adopts one. This is pretty much a standard one that most schools adopt.
Oh, is it?
I mean, that's how everything is, boilerplate. And they just adopt it. It makes it easier.
Yeah.
But it covers everything. It's not just, real quick little blah,
Right.
blah. And they have to make sure they, separate the bully from the student. Maybe the bully may get detention, maybe get some other sanction through school. It's a school sanction, because they consider this a school issue, and not to involve the courts at this point. Because we know court involvement isn't always positive. It can leave a lasting legacy on a student and a stigma, which can harm them later on in life, which would also be a trauma.
Yeah.
So we then look at the person bullied and see, well, they'd first have to contact the parents. And then you'd recommend some form of counseling, and you'd recommend trauma-informed counseling, because and you always have to make sure it's trauma-informed counseling. Because
What is that exactly?
trauma-informed means you're looking for those trauma factors that we discussed, those 10. And for youth, it's really the pearls, and we use the pearls because that's more specific towards youth, where the ACEs is more specific towards adults. And the pearls just has more factors that deal with youth. But anyways, they need to be someone who's looking for those.
Okay.
And I'll tell you a true story here. I had this student, it's old. This was when a long time ago when I first started drug court at juvenile court. I had a student, he was taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back in drug court. And I'm like, what's going on here? They're self-sabotaging all the time, because some of the things he would do were things I'm like, you know better, right? Why are you doing that? So I talked to him in private at the bench, and I said, are you seeing a counselor? He said, yes. I said, oh, how long have you been going? He said, since I was 5.
Oh my.
He was 15,
Oh my God.
right?
Yes, but that's
I said, you've been seeing someone for 10 years, and he's still taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back. What does that tell you?
Get a new
not much
counselor.
counseling. Yeah. I said, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk badly about a counseling agency, but I'm thinking, my head is spinning.
Yeah.
10 years, you're 5, now you're 15, and
Yeah.
you're still,
You're still, yeah.
I'm thinking, I said, would you mind, I had his mom there, would you mind seeing one of our counselors? She said, no, we'll come, and he said, he'll come. And he said, but he did say, because you create a relationship with these students on these special dockets, as you do on the adult docket too. And I'm sure Judge Durkin and Judge D'Onofrio and Depolito and Judge Sweeney have a relationship because you spend more time with them.
Right.
And you get to talk with them. He said, I want you to be there though, because he wasn't going to know the counselor. And I said, okay, I'll be there.
Oh.
So it was a Saturday in the summer, and he comes in short sleeves. Darryl, you're going to figure this one out in a heartbeat. It's not going to take you
Yeah.
anything. I'm going to tell you, you're like, ding dong, right?
Right.
Why did someone else think of it? So he comes in short sleeves. I meet him at the lobby, walk him back. We're talking. We sit down, and we're talking. I introduce him to the counselor. And I look over at him, and he has all these cigarette burns and cigar burns up and down his arms. And I'm looking at that, and you know what that indicates.
Yes.
So, and I said, how did you get those? I don't know if someone was doing it or he was doing it.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, I do it. I go, why do you do it? He goes, I like to do it. I said, really? He goes, yes, I like to do it. And I said, may I ask you a question? He said, sure. I said, who hurt you? Boom. The door opened.
Yeah.
Right? He started crying, and he said at age 5 he had been raped on the way home from school.
Oh my God.
I said, did you ever talk about that? He said, no one ever asked.
Wow.
So I don't know how a counselor never saw those marks up and down his arms.
Yeah.
I saw them the very first time. When they come to court, they're in a nice shirt, They,
Right. Yeah.
So I wouldn't see. I'm not going to say, hey, let me see everything.
Yeah.
Right? But on the summer Saturday, I saw it, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh,
Wow.
all this time that boy had been burying that and trying to bury it like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But it keeps creeping up.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps creeping up, and that's what I saw, taking 2 steps back.
Wow.
So, and I think we have to, when we listen to our students, we have to listen with our eyes,
Yeah.
We do.
right?
Because there's visual things that really will be like, I see something's not right
not
here.
jiving
Yes.
with what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you have to do. And I think we do that naturally. When you walk into a place, you may walk into a restaurant, you see it's dirty. Right away you go, I'm not eating here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But we don't seem to do that with the people before us sometimes. We don't, And so for our youth, we have to look at everything about them. Who do they come with? Who brings them?
Yeah.
Who do they talk to in their family? All those factors.
How the person that bring them. I'm looking at them just to see how they're interacting with the youth. If it's just very, very harsh, very attitudinal, very demeaning. Those are, in one sense for me, I'm probably looking, if she's the daughter and you're the parents, I'm probably looking at you first
Right.
and foremost,
To see your interactions.
see your interactions.
I was just going to ask that. So when you get a case like this, do you immediately go to the parents? I mean, does your mind immediately go to the parents have some kind of role in what's happening here?
And either they don't know it's happening, they do know it's happening, one or the other. They don't know or they may suspect. Sometimes they don't know.
Sometimes they don't know.
They don't
Really?
know. That's a lot of it. They don't know. I can sit here and tell you story after story about parents. And when we had this one case, a girl was a runaway. And that used to be the runaway was, what's wrong with her? Why does she keep running away? Who would run away from home? We have to say, who would run away from home?
Yeah.
From 9, 10, 11, 12. You're not going to be able to make it out on the streets, right?
Yeah.
So what's going on there? From what are you running, right? Because something's going on in that home. And so we finally got her, and they found her in, going to New York City. They found her in Pennsylvania somewhere, and they brought her back. And so we have the case, and I'm looking at it, and the mother comes, and there was this other person that would come to speak on. And I had asked the guardian and the attorneys, I said, find out who that man is. I can't do that. I mean, I can ask, who are you? Okay. I thought, let them find out, because they'll either ask the young girl or the mother. And that was the mother's boyfriend and landlord. So what do you think? How do you think rent got paid?
Yeah. She was selling the kid.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. And that's from what she was running.
God.
So that's what you have to look at. I mean, sometimes you always hear, this kid just won't follow the rules, keeps climbing out the window, and,
Right.
I can't, I'm like, why?
Why? Yeah.
Why? And we always ask that, why? And what happened
Yeah.
if they did that? And we find that when we do that, all the students that you get, not all of them, I'll say not all of them, I'm going to say, and this is maybe a controversial statement, but I think you will agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
All the students we get down to juvenile court, something bad had happened to them that made them do those things.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's born evil like that.
Right.
And no mother or father has a baby and goes, I hope you grow up to be a criminal and end up in juvenile court. No one does that, right? Right? And no child goes, when you're first grade, what do you want to be? I want to end up in juvenile court. Something happens to divert that trajectory in their life.
Yeah.
And that's how we end up with these situations that we're talking about now. And I got you off your hazing, but that's how we got there.
Yeah.
Because those who were doing the hazing probably were hazed.
We're hazed. Yeah.
Okay? And so that's what they know.
Yeah.
And there you have it.
I mean, remember years ago, Oprah Winfrey said she used to ask all of her subjects, "What's wrong with you?" And then she started asking them, "What happened to you?"
What happened? You say what's wrong with you. It's almost like it's your fault.
Yeah.
But what happened? And as soon as you do that, you get a whole. And no one asks that question. When that happened, I thought, oh my gosh, I really felt so bad for that student.
Really.
But you know what? We were able to work on it and get it done. And he did graduate from drug court.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
I know, and I can't remember what this is, but if you know that there's something happening in the home, I remember I think it was adult court, the guardian ad litem, and the judge would assign that to, but I think it was for adults. Do you do the same thing for?
Well, adults, I don't know if they do that in probate, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, right. That's what I was
thinking. And in domestic.
Okay.
And juvenile, we do. We have CASA, which are the court-appointed special advocates.
Right.
And we also have many lawyers who are guardian ad litem certified by the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And they take special courses.
So what role do they play? Like they don't, especially if it's an attorney, but the child wouldn't move into a home with the guardian ad litem.
No.
Did they just oversee what's happening in the home?
Well, the guardian ad litem, what their role is, they interview wherever the child lives. If the child interviews the father's home or the aunts or the uncles or the grandparents, whatever it is, whoever the caretaker is, and meets with everyone. We'll also do random stops.
Oh,
Because if you know a guardian's coming, you're going to clean your house up.
exactly.
Put food in the refrigerator,
Yeah.
right? So they make random stops, and they're permitted to do that. So the guardian will do that at both homes. Guardian will interview teachers, friends, coaches, close friends, neighbors, to see what's going on. They try to do everything they can to find out everything they can about that student. And of course, number one, their client is the student. And so they meet with the student. And they have to develop a relationship with that student. Because how often, if you are being hurt by your parents, someone who is supposed to protect you, how likely are you now going to just trust someone who you've never
another
met?
adult.
Now I'm supposed to tell you everything and you're going to come in and help me, right?
Right.
My own mom doesn't help me or my own dad doesn't help me,
Yeah.
right? So it's a real precarious position they're in. But they have to establish a relationship with that child and get that child to trust him or her.
Can you explain, I remember the organization CASA, but those are volunteers, right? How does that work exactly? Because that sounds like a lot more work than I really even understood that they were doing. Because I knew a school principal, who was actually in that. And while I was working, she was saying, oh yeah, you should do that. And I'm like, I have no time with the hours that I work, but maybe when I retire, I could get involved.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you consider this retirement?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yes, exactly. This is what Bertram considers retirement.
He's still working, so are you.
Yes, exactly. But can you explain the CASA program a little bit?
Briefly, I'm not an expert on it, but I will tell you because we do have a CASA at our court. It's a 501c3 standalone board. There is a CASA state organization with whom they have their affiliation, and they receive their certification and direction and guidance. So at our court, the CASA executive director will recruit. They'll do recruiting and they'll advertise and see who wants to be a CASA volunteer, and then they go through a training. And the training is the same training that the lawyers go through, and it's established by the Supreme Court. I believe it's Rule 48. 46 or 48. I'm going to
The state Supreme Court, right?
Yes, our Ohio State Supreme Court. And so there's a rule that has all these guidelines of which they have to follow. And so they're taught mental health, behavior, child development, what to look for when the child is born, first 3 months, next 6 months, the 9 months, afterwards, the first year. So you know what developmental behaviors they should have and if they're in any delays. How to recognize some behaviors too. What do you expect in first grade, second grade? And so they learn an awful lot because you don't want someone going in and saying, oh, he's not saying his ABCs and he's 2, okay? Right? So, those are the things you look for. And then they're also taught about safety matters and what to look for in a house and, how to conduct those investigations.
Yeah.
Now, when they have a case, when they're assigned a case, we've had CASA volunteers who get a case when the child is a few months old through Children's Services.
Wow.
So they'll come in and take out an infant who maybe was born with a cocaine addiction because the mother used cocaine or opioids during pregnancy. They'll come in, they'll remove the baby. And so then we put a guardian ad litem on it, and maybe an attorney or a CASA volunteer. And they then follow that child. Well, that child you can end up having all the way to age 18.
Wow.
So, yes.
That's a long
It's
job.
a long haul,
Yes,
right? And you go in and out of the case. And if it's maybe a custody case where 2 parents or a grandparent and a mother or a grandparent and a cousin, because the parents are both deceased or in prison, they may fight back and forth for custody. And you go in, and then it's quiet for a while, and then you go back in again. And so it's a commitment. I want you to know that.
Yeah.
Like, so if you were thinking about it,
Yeah.
long-term commitment.
Yeah.
And you go in all sorts of places. You have to be able to meet with school officials, school counselors,
Yeah.
and decide who's telling the truth and who's not and who's exaggerating and present it. And you're just always looking for what's the best thing for this child. And what you always have to look at is look at every child as if he or she was your own. And when it's he or she is your own, you'll move mountains. And so we expect everyone to move mountains for these children because no one else is. And so it's our job, our duty to move mountains.
And if somebody wanted to get involved with that program, do they go through your court or?
They can call us and we'll give them the CASA number because they have an office in our building. And that's where
I see.
Courts have juvenile courts have a CASA in their building.
Okay.
And we have a CASA office in our building and we can give you their contact and email and they'll contact you and they do a class and then there's a graduation and then you get assigned a case.
Yeah, for a long time.
Could be. Yeah. Right. You say, I'll take a 17-year-old. No babies.
Another question to ask?
Are you done with your
No, I
questions?
have another question, but
I mean, I don't want to steer away
Go
from
ahead.
the conversation we were
You can
already
always
in.
edit this, so don't worry.
Yeah,
Plug it in somewhere else.
yeah. But I was going to ask about, what we can do to make it easier to speak up about situations like that for bystanders or for people who are witnessing or even people who are seeing warning signs early,
I think there's a lot of campaigns that go on. I've seen them in other countries. They do bystander, trainings and campaigns to say, we have to speak up, and not be afraid to speak up. But then you have to make sure, too, that they're going to be protected.
yeah.
And I mean, not bullied or harassed themselves for speaking up. And that's a problem that happens. But there are a lot of anonymous phone lines you can call.
There are.
Yeah, so
And
what
that's-
are those where we can share on our
CSB,
CSB being
CSB?
Children's Services.
Children's Services.
Right.
I can give you their number if you want it now. You
The
can call the prosecutor's
CSB
office.
and prosecutor's
Call the
office.
prosecutor's office. And they have a victim witness coordinator in our juvenile court. And they have one in the adult court, too, and in all the county courts, a victim witness coordinator at the prosecutor's office.
So the help hotline, is that something online?
Yeah.
It's basically help network, help hotline. And then
I know for Job and Family Services, they're for elder abuse.
Okay.
that's true. That's a horrible one, too, that goes on.
Yeah, I know, it is. Now, would any of these places take a call from a minor you
They
know,
have to take all calls.
they do. So if
Yeah,
a child
take all
calls
calls.
and says, you know, I'm being abused or I'm being harassed, or
Oh, absolutely. If the child should call Children's Services, and they do. And some we have cases where they threaten, "I'm going to call CSB on you." You know, and mom goes, "Sure, go ahead. I'm not doing anything." You know, but they know the call, and they should call. Even 911. You know, then you get right to your local police force.
yeah, okay. If your child has been harassed or is being hazed repeatedly, and I mean, you see these commercials and they always say, tell a trusted adult. So what if they tell a trusted adult and nothing happens?
That's the sad part.
What do they do then?
Yeah, they may think they're a trusted adult and it's someone who has no oomph, and
Right. Yeah.
Or they can't
Doesn't
trust
put
anyone.
themselves
Yeah,
out.
or they can't. They trust the wrong person too.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, yes.
Yeah.
So, but you tell a trusted adult, and that does happen. They may tell the person who's a perpetrator.
Right.
Yeah.
And kind of the flip side of that, depending on the situation, if you tell me something right now and I don't do anything about it, then more than likely, inevitably down the line of the road, there's going to be some legal consequences that I face.
For you.
So I would say tell a teacher, because teachers are mandatory reporters. So most of them have a teacher, and that would be elementary school, grade school, and even preschool. They're all elementary. I mean, they're all mandatory reporters.
Are they?
I would say tell a teacher for sure, because if they don't do something, their license is on the line.
And so if they don't do something, would you just suggest that the child keep going to someone else, find somebody else that might?
I would. But see, you're talking about a child who's already been beat up by the system, by the family, and then failed again.
Right.
They're going to lose hope.
Yeah.
Right.
And hope's a big factor. I mean, hope is what gets you through the day.
Yeah, I mean, if I tell you and you don't do anything, if I tell you and you don't do anything, then it's hard.
You lose
We're talking
hope.
about hope.
You do. You lose all
Yeah.
hope.
I'm going to go inward.
Yeah. Can they, in your organization particularly, would a younger child maybe trust an older child to help them instead of going to an adult? Or would they, do you think?
Not
really?
We're in a good position in the sense of, because we're going into the schools, we do have an office for really in a number of the schools. They will come to us because we're just a different group of adults who are not necessarily a part of the system of the school, and will confide in us. And of course we're mandatory reporters, so we then have to report. But it's a good situation, really, because it really just provides them, with some trust and some freedom to say what they really need to say.
Yeah.
And it's non-judgmental too. We have a teacher who's going to grade you, judge you, and maybe the bully is in your classroom, and the teacher doesn't even know the person's a bully and is yucking with them.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, if you have someone like Darryl in the building, I would do that, or like I said, a teacher.
Yeah.
And I think students pretty much know the good teachers and the bad teachers. They see it.
I had an experience in my family, though, where a teacher's aide did something horrific to one of my young cousins, and the mother reported it to the teacher, who let her know what happened, and then when it went to the prosecutor's office, the whole story changed. So, I mean, at some point, adults get intimidated. Maybe somebody said something to her. But, yeah, it is difficult to know, especially if you're a kid. I mean, I can't imagine being a child and reporting it to somebody that you trust and nothing happening, especially if it's something that happens in the home. If you want some protection from parents or, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever's committing these acts.
There's a lot on these kids right now. I said social media is a whole new layer, and it's not just a layer. It's a heavy blanket.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't understand the severity of the situation either. If a student tells you everything you know, but then if they just, give you some hint and you don't exactly know, how severe the situation is, then you're more likely not to do anything about it. But yeah, it's a tricky situation.
And it does sound like this effect lasts for a lifetime if there's no intervention.
It's
And then,
damaging.
yeah, and it's damaging then to society because they act out.
Well, think about broken glass. You break glass, even if you try to glue it together, tape it together, it's still broken.
Yeah,
You can look, see through it in a way and put it back together, but it's still broken.
yeah,
And kind of with young people too, if some things happen that we're aware of, and like initially maybe it's months, maybe it's a year, and they're kind of maintaining pretty well. But what we know really is that because of their makeup, at some point, something is going to happen. And all of a sudden, this person who really was kind of calm, good demeanor, I mean, they're acting out and they're fighting and they're doing this or that. And it's just a manifestation of that trauma. Us adults, you do something, I'm going to go here, I may get up and throw something, start cussing or whatever. It's there still may be some residual, but I'm just going to deal with it a little differently. Young people, it's internalized.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, adults are like, well, why are they acting out? Why are they fighting all the time? Why this or that?
yeah,
And it's your way of coping with the world, because
Yeah.
you're expecting that sort of behavior all the time now, and so you're just ready for it. I'll give you one quick example. So when I first became juvenile judge, I got a tour of the detention center, and I went and I saw this one young girl, and I said hello to her, and they said, "Don't get too close to her. She's a spitter." And they said, "But we're getting more spit masks to put on her." And I said, "I don't think I want that. Why would I want to put a spit mask on her? And why would she spit?" You have to ask.
yeah,
Why is she a spitter? And that, for me, immediately, Darryl, I'm going to say these things, and I know you know them.
Right.
She had to have been held down.
Yeah.
And spitting was her only way,
the only way
of
to
protecting
defend herself. Oh
because
my
she was-
God.
And so why do I want to now put a spit mask on her
Yeah.
and totally take away any
Any
self-protection
power, yeah.
she had for her own safety? That would be worse, and that'd be causing more damage.
Right.
And so then you see that, and you're like, oh, she's a spitter, we're going to charge her, putting bodily fluids on other people. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here we are, we're just not even thinking about who we have before us.
Yeah,
And we have a young girl that most likely had been held down, horrible things done,
yeah,
and that was her only recourse.
Yeah.
So that's how we have to look at the students
Right.
when we look at them first. If they do commit an act, we have to address that act. I don't want you to think everybody just gets off. No, we have to address the act. But we have to address the act, rehabilitation, and then also, obviously, see what we can do for the victim. Those are our three mandates. And we have to look at each equally.
Yeah.
Actually, we look at the victim more now because of the Constitution. But our goal is to protect public safety, restore victims' rights, and rehabilitate. It's important.
Is there a stigma for young people to seek out counseling?
Yeah.
There is.
Yep. Same stigma as adults.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean I know a lot of adults that say, "Oh, why would you ever go to a counselor or a psychologist or anything?" And I'm like, seems
with
like
it.
common sense to me. Yeah,
I mean, I know people who, some trauma adults, not necessarily real heavy stuff,
Yeah.
but they just do not have anybody that they can really talk to. So, they go to counseling, they spend, fortunately they have the money to spend for it,
Right.
but they go and they just have somebody that they can unload to.
yeah, yeah. I guess especially as families sort of move apart from each other, that happens more and more often. And I just want to ask something kind of sort of off the topic. But you were talking about your organization deals with conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about that a little bit, because there's so much of that, and young kids don't know how to do this. What are some points that you give kids to resolve conflicts without resorting to guns, particularly in this town?
Right. Well, one thing, we use the words assertive versus aggressive. And just in conflict, I need to be able to be assertive in terms of making my points. But assertiveness is different from being aggressive verbally. Verbally, I mean, it's a fight, and I'm going to use my vocabulary as best as I can to just destroy you and demean you. Assertive is just, stating this is the problem, this is what is acceptable, this is not acceptable, so let us find a solution in this. And then if we can't, then, one-to-one, then definitely I will bring in some caring adults to advocate for my needs. So that's a verbal skill that we really, really, really teach.
Okay.
I know at Mahoning Valley Community School, they have a person on staff who deals with the conflicts that happen, because you bring them from your home, your neighborhood, friends, like I said, from a ballpark, little concert, get together, and the mediator at the school pulls two students together and teaches them and works through them how to work through conflict resolution. Because otherwise it just progresses, increases, and becomes, before you know it, fights, and they pull out their phones and watch.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to make sure that's something that we teach our youth.
Yeah.
Because it's often not in these homes.
I know. Yeah.
It's not in these homes, and it's not even sometimes in workplaces.
Right.
So, I mean, we need to do more of a campaign to do conflict resolution,
Yeah.
how to work through those problems.
And I think that's a great idea, because, you hear about this so often, but you don't actually know. You tell these young people that you need to work on conflict resolution, but they have no idea where to start or what that means.
Right.
Except, I'm going to pull out a gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to trash your house, call you names, ruin your reputation,
Right.
put things on social media,
Yeah.
and then we go down that
Yeah,
road.
the social media is a
So-
big one today.
Yeah. And a lot of times, you really will find out the dynamics of the whole situation. Sake of discussion. Okay, I see you every day, and I'm looking at your shoes, and I'm cracking those shoes. Blah 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 blah. So I do this for a couple of days. 2 weeks down the line, you've had enough, and so you go ahead and you kind of elbow her. So something has jumped off, and maybe it was physical, or maybe you said something verbally. And so when you bring them together and you're dealing kind of with the conflict resolution, ideally, both parties can see what they contributed to the situation, and you can come to some closure and some remedy in it. And ideally with a neutral person there, it really, really, really does work.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it goes back to the whole thing we were talking about with either one-on-one versus the group behavior. So, do you any other questions?
Yeah, I have a very difficult question. I think it's a difficult question, but if each of you could make one change in the law, in education, or in the culture to truly reduce hazing, what would that be?
We both have the benefit of experience in growing up.
Yeah.
And I know how we handled it
Yeah.
in the old day. Because we didn't really deal with a lot. I mean, there was bullying, obviously,
Right.
but it was dealt with in a way that was shut down.
Yeah.
And we can't deal with it that way
Right.
right
Yeah.
now.
Fist fights usually.
And I didn't get good with
Yeah.
bullies at all. My simplistic answer, this isn't an answer, but it's got to be eliminated. I mean, I don't like it. I don't have any respect for it, any need for it, anything that I can say, I just think, going back earlier to what Judge said, it's kind of a social norm that's got to be changed.
So maybe a campaign on college campuses and wherever else it happens to prohibit it, particularly with the Greek system, where it happens, and maybe with the sports teams. But it also happens in adult sports teams too. So there would have to be
So some kind of behavioral change
Yeah.
has to
It
happen.
has to be some sort of campaign.
Yeah.
It's got to be a statewide campaign or a national statewide campaign saying,
Yeah.
no, I mean, there's other ways to build teamwork.
Yeah.
There's other ways to build camaraderie. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like sexual harassment. Well, the joke's funny because it's a dumb blonde. I said, well, let's try it with a dumb bald man.
Yeah.
It's not so funny now, right?
Yeah.
So there's other ways to make a joke.
Yeah.
There's other ways. My point was there's other ways to make a joke. You don't have to use a dumb blonde.
Right.
Okay? But you can also find camaraderie and teamwork another way. And I think that's what we have to say. We have to we have to throw away the old stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. It has lasting effects. Because I even know for the one person that said to me, I went home and told my dad, he said, shake it off. He felt like, I just had the crap beat out of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I'm supposed to
right.
shake it off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not even, man up isn't the answer either.
Yeah.
So if we have to just say no hazing. And I think they tried doing that too with the hazing law. I mean, they did, there's not a bullying law, don't forget. There's a hazing law. So it was such, prolific incident happening around the state, they had to make a specific law.
But what does that mean? There's not a bullying law, just a hazing law. Is bullying isn't included in that?
No, well, cyberbullying is.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
And then telephone harassment and they don't really consider hazing bullying though. Because hazing is different.
Yeah.
Technically, by the law. I mean, it could also be
Yeah.
the same thing. We're bullying you into
It
being a
does seem
team
like
player.
all of these all
They all
overlap,
kind
though,
of- yes.
don't they?
Because they're bullying you in to be a team member or not to be a team member. But they all require harm.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so,
And I think there's a fine line there because sometimes kids do a lot of pranks and they need to know where the line is so that they don't go too far when they are doing things like that.
and I have to tell you, I think television and social media have blurred those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just going back to even Roseanne Barr shows.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I first started seeing it, and she was back on in the 80s. Just the rude comments that were being tossed back and forth between a husband and a wife or a mother and a child. They're just rude.
Yeah.
And they got laughs.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like, well, this gets laughs. People laugh at my jokes. I'm popular.
Right.
And so we really have to go back to basics. And I've been saying that for a long time. We have to get back to
We do.
basics.
I often talk to people about this, but probably when you were a kid too. When I was in grade school, we used to have citizenship classes. And when we got to high school, we had civics classes. And I'm told by friends in education that civics classes are pretty much eliminated these days. And citizenship classes are gone too. I mean, it just, besides teaching you about the country, it taught you how to be a civil human being.
Right.
I think what's happened, we have to go back to basics. And that's where we're at.
Right.
Because if you can't go back to basics, you can have a rifle club.
Right.
And teach kids how to shoot a gun.
Yeah.
I have had cases where kids find a gun in the house and they've shot out the TV, they've shot out a window because they don't know how to do it. Because, you shoot them sometimes and you get the kickback.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking, had they known what to do,
Yeah.
these things
Right.
would have happened.
Yeah.
One student had a gun, wanted to quiet the group, shot it in the air, hit the ceiling, ricocheted, killed his best friend. Never
my
intended that.
God.
So I'm thinking, we do need to get back to those days.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not.
Yeah.
We've just drifted so far apart. And I think we're seeing it across the nation.
Yeah.
People can't agree on anything. They can't agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything's a fight.
Yeah. Thanks very much for coming. We appreciate it. And we may continue this.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Always
Yeah.
good to be with both of you.